This is a video to help with Mobius Lesson 7, Question 7 from your homework. The function g of t, capital A, R, describes the amount of money you could have in your savings balance after t years under the following assumptions. The letter A, or the capital A, represents the initial amount of money deposited in your savings account. Number 2, the letter R represents the interest the account earns annually, or the APR. It is written as a decimal. So if you are given it as a percentage, you need to change it to a decimal. And 3, your bank compounds interest daily. So in this case, we have this formula here. The compound is usually represented by the letter N. They've already substituted that in here for us as 365, since there are 365 days in a year. If it was compounded quarterly, then we would put a 4 here. If it was compounded monthly, both of these places we would put a 12. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is use Excel because it is so much faster than using your calculator or a graphing calculator or by hand. So I'm going to copy this. You can do Command C or Control C. And then I'm going to come over here and Command V or Control V to paste. Now, to get it to calculate, I want it to just do equals, but for now I'm going to just substitute things in and then get rid of this at the front, because as soon as I get rid of this, it's going to say it doesn't know how to calculate this because I don't have all of the information over here. So I'm going to just go through the formula first, and we can do it up here or we can do it down here. It's up to you. So the first thing I want to do is correct the formula in Excel. Copying and pasting does a wonderful job of getting the letters and numbers over there, but it doesn't have all the operations, and it doesn't know what to do in between the number and a parenthesis. So the first thing I need to do is put a multiplication right here so that it knows between this and this, it needs to multiply. Over here, we don't want it to multiply as this is an exponent. So I'm going to do Shift 6 to give us the caret to show that that's going to be in the exponent. Now if I leave it like this, it'll raise this whole, this entire, right here, 1 plus R, the quantity, all of that, raised to the 365. And if I don't put the T in a parenthesis with the 365, it won't be up in the exponent. So I need to put another set of parentheses around this, so that all of that goes in the exponent. And again, I don't have an operation between this number and the variable t, so I need to put in a multiplication so that Excel knows to calculate that. Okay, I'm going to double check everything just to make sure. I have A multiply 1 plus R. We'll replace that with our APR, divided by 365 raised to the quantity 365 times t, and all of that's in the exponent, so that's good. Now I can go back through and replace these. It told me that A represents the initial amount of money, and down here it says, how much money would you have in your savings balance after 3 years if you initially invested $600? So you walk into the bank and you have no money there yet, but you take $600 in to invest it. So that's the initial amount, or this A, and we're going to type in 600 to replace that A. Now the other thing I need is R, or the APR, and it tells me down here that it has an interest rate of 1%. Now I have to change this back to a decimal. Don't plug it in as a percent. So we move the decimal place over 2 place values to the left. Since there's not a decimal here on the 1, we know it's after the 1, and so we need to move it 2 place values to the left, which gives us 0.01. Then the next one we need to replace is time, or T, and that's in years, and they gave us 3 years. So I don't need to do any conversions, I just take the 3 and replace or substitute the 3 in right there at the T. Now that I have everything over there, I'm going to get rid of this. And the reason I didn't do that is that it would kind of say, oh wait, I don't know how to calculate with all of these things. But now that we have it in there and everything's good, it can calculate it. If it doesn't, it comes up error. We need to go back in and see what did we do wrong. So we're going to press enter. That will give us the final amount after 3 years. And we can, if you need to format this as money or, here we go. That might be helpful for some people. You can do currency right here so that it'll show you, and it will also round it to the nearest cent. So if you get kind of flustered, you can make sure that double check right there. Oh, it already has dollar signs, so don't put that in. $618.27. Okay, so the next one. How much interest would you have earned by leaving your money in the savings account for 3 years? Well, we just found out how much the total amount would be after 3 years. Now we want to know how much interest we would have earned had we done this. So anything over our initial investment would be how much we earned in interest. And our initial investment is right here at $600. So anything over that would be our investment or interest. So, oops, I self-referenced something. I apologize. We're going to get out of there. Sorry. Okay, so now we're going to come here and I want to subtract. Now, some of you are okay just subtracting off the 600, but some of them might be a little bit more messy. You might get flustered, especially on an exam, and you would like to see it for sure. So we're going to cell reference this one and subtract the initial, which is 600. So we'll type in 600 and that'll give us our 1827. Although most of you in this case can just take off the 6 and you'd be comfortable with that. But it's just so that you know how to do that in case something comes up and it's not as nice. So we need to type in $18.27. If you didn't format these in currency, you could just ensure, let's go back, that you round this to the nearest cent, where the 2 does not round up the 7. And so you know that it's 27. And that's up to you, depending on which route and if you wanted to format it or not. Okay, the other way we can do this is with a graphing calculator. You could try and do a scientific calculator. To do that, you would need to keep everything in your memory or go in the order of operations. And it kind of gets convoluted that way. And some students end up rounding. And if you round, it actually ends up rounding and rounding. The more operations you do after you round the first time, and so things end up being off by a little bit at the end. So I highly recommend using Excel, especially in these, because all you have to do is copy and paste. If you do a graphing calculator, it will also be exact. You don't have any rounding, but you do need to make sure that you type it in correctly, which is what we did over here. And this one you don't get a copy and paste. So we're going to come into this, clear out everything, and we want A, which we know is 600, so we'll type in 600, and then we need to do a parenthesis. Now, our calculator knows to multiply between those, so you don't need to put it in. If you are not comfortable with that and would like to continue what we did in Excel and put the multiplication, that's up to you. It's fine. And then 1 plus our R, and I'm just using this formula right here. I'm using this formula, and so I'm just going to replace our R now, which was 1%, again changing it to the decimal 0.01, and then divide by 365. So the way I'm doing this is typing it on my keypad on my computer, just so that you guys can see that. But make sure that as you're doing this, that you're all of these are really accurate. Now we need to raise it. We have a caret button right here. And I'm going to do parentheses so that all of this goes in the exponent. And we're going to do 365. Now in this one, because there's nothing between this number and this number, if I were just to type in the year here, it would just do 365 or 3,653. So we need to tell it to multiply the 3. And then we're going to close our parenthesis and then press enter, and it'll calculate it for us. Then we can do subtract 600 here to find our the money that we earned in interest. So we have a couple of different options. We can go over here and just verify how did I do. Oops. well, it had the green check marks. And so if you have any questions, feel free to ask me, but I highly recommend using Excel in all of these, especially where you can copy and paste it in, and that's really convenient. All right, good luck on your homework.